The pen was already in her hand. I stood in the doorway of my own kitchen, grocery bag against my chest, watching my son lean over my wife's shoulder, his finger tapping the bottom of a page. Just sign here, Mom, it's routine. Dad already knows about it. Donna looked up at me. Her eyes had that fog, the one that had been settling in for 19 months, and she smiled like she wasn't sure if I'd been gone 5 minutes or 5 hours. 7 pages fanned across the table. My left knee ached from the cold, the titanium pin never did adjust to Rochester winters, and my wife was one signature away from losing everything. Marcus hadn't heard me come in. I set the bag on the counter, walked to the table, slid the pen from Donna's fingers gently, the way you'd take something from a child who'd found a knife, and picked up page 1. It took me 11 seconds to read. What most people would need an attorney and an afternoon to understand. I looked at my son. He'd gone white. Sit down, Marcus. My voice was level. The same tone I'd used in federal depositions for 29 years. He didn't know about the depositions. My own son had never once asked me what I actually did for a living. He was about to find out. Let me tell you how we got here. My name is Warren Calloway. I'm 64 years old, and I live in a 3-bedroom colonial on Pemberton Drive in Rochester, New York. Same house for 31 years. Same creak on the 3rd step. Same draft in the back hallway that Donna always said she'd get fixed, but never did. For the last 19 months, my mornings have looked the same. I wake at 5:40. I make 2 cups of coffee, mine black. Donna's with 2 sugars and a splash of oat milk, because she thinks it's cream, and I don't correct her anymore. I set out her medications on a small blue plate, the Donepezil, the baby aspirin, the vitamin D. I read the Democrat and Chronicle at the kitchen table while she eats her toast. And when she asks me what day it is, I tell her. Sometimes she asks again, 8 minutes later. I tell her again. I tip 30% at every restaurant because I waited tables for 3 years in college, and I remember what it felt like to depend on strangers' generosity. I visit the cemetery on the first Sunday of every month, not for Donna, she's still here for my mother, Ruth, who died in 2019, and who told me on her last morning that the measure of a man is how he treats people who can't fight back. I've been listening to that advice my whole life. Donna was diagnosed with early-onset vascular dementia 23 months ago. The fog comes and goes. Some days, she's sharp. She'll remember the name of the restaurant where we had our first date, Cafalina in Saratoga Springs, and she laughed about how I spilled red wine on my shirt and tried to hide it with my napkin. Other days, she doesn't recognize the mailbox. But that's the man people see. The quiet retiree. The devoted husband. The man who works in his garden and waves at the neighbors. And says he used to work at a bank. What I actually did for 2 years was forensic financial analysis for First Federal Bank of Western New York. I identified fraud, shell companies, embezzlement schemes, forged instruments. I testified in 14 federal cases and helped recover over $23 million in stolen assets. I could read a balance sheet the way a surgeon reads an X-ray. I could see where the disease was hiding before the patient knew they were sick. I left that life 3 years ago. The week after Donna's diagnosis, she sat on the edge of our bed, her hands folded tight in her lap, and said, "Warren, I'm scared I'm going to forget you." And I told her I wasn't going anywhere. I took early retirement. I closed my files. I put that part of myself in a box and sealed it shut. I made her a promise. I didn't know my own son was going to make me break it. Marcus is my only child. He's 38. He left Rochester at 19 after a fight I've replayed more times than I should admit. He wanted money for a business that didn't exist yet. I said no. He said I'd never supported him. I said that wasn't true, but my voice was too loud and his was louder. And Donna cried in the bathroom for an hour after he slammed the front door. He moved to Syracuse, then Buffalo, then somewhere near Albany for a while. Birthday cards. The occasional text. One Thanksgiving in 2016, where he brought a girlfriend named Jess, who was polite and clearly uncomfortable, and left before dessert. Then, 14 months ago, Marcus called. His voice was softer than I'd heard in years. He said he'd heard about Donna. He said he was sorry he'd been away so long. He said, "I want to be there, Dad. Tell me what you need." Something in my chest loosened that day. Something I didn't even know I'd been holding. He started visiting every other weekend. He'd drive the 90 minutes from Syracuse on Saturday mornings and bring bagels from a bakery. Donna used to love shoppers on East Avenue, and she'd light up when she saw him. He'd sit with her in the garden and let her tell him the same stories 3 times and laugh each time like it was brand new. He remembered how she took her tea. Chamomile, 1 sugar, steeped exactly for minutes. He bought her a blanket with birds on it because she'd once mentioned, years ago, that she liked cardinals. He helped me fix the gutter on the north side of the house and refused to take $1 for it. For the first time in almost 20 years, I thought maybe things were going to be okay. The first small ask came in month 3. He said he was between insurance plans and needed to use our address temporarily for a piece of mail. Just 1 envelope. I said of course. A minor thing. Nothing to it. Then he started suggesting that Donna's paperwork, her medical directives, her accounts, her insurance was a lot for one person to manage. He said maybe he should be added to a few things. Just in case something happened to me. I thought about it. He was our son. Donna's only child. If something did happen to me, who else would look after her? I told him I'd think about it. I noticed 2 things I didn't mention to anyone. The first was that Marcus always made these suggestions when Donna had left the room, or when she was deep in one of her fog spells, never when she was sharp. The second was that he'd started locking his phone screen the instant I walked near him. He'd never done that before. I filed both observations in the back of my mind, and didn't look at them too closely. Because he was my son. Because I was so grateful to have him back, that I let gratitude do the thinking. The visits went from every other weekend, to every weekend. Then to midweek stops. Marcus said he'd rearranged his work schedule. He managed inventory for a plumbing supply company in Syracuse, so he could be around more. I didn't question it. Step 1 happened in month 4, small, almost invisible. I came home from the pharmacy, and found that Marcus had rearranged the filing cabinet in my office. He said he was looking for Donna's immunization records for a doctor's appointment he'd offered to drive her to. The files were in a different order. The folder labeled accounts joint was on top. It had been in the middle. I reorganized everything that night and didn't mention it. Step 2 was the mail. 3 pieces of financial correspondence from Donna's pension fund never arrived. I called the fund directly. They told me a change of address had been submitted 11 days earlier. New address, APO Box in Syracuse, New York. The authorization form bore Donna's signature. My wife can still sign her name. It looks the same as it always has. That's the thing about vascular dementia. Some motor functions stay intact long after comprehension has eroded. She could sign a document she couldn't understand, and it would look perfectly legitimate. I changed the address back, and set up electronic alerts on every account tied to either of our names. I didn't tell Marcus. I didn't tell Donna. I went along with it because I told myself there might be an explanation. Because he was family. Because the alternative was something I wasn't ready to look at. Step 3. I was taking the recycling out on a Wednesday evening in October, when I noticed a manila envelope on the passenger seat of Marcus's car, unsealed. The return address was the law office of Glenfisk, 412 Butternut Street, Syracuse, New York. I'd never heard of Glenfisk. I wrote the name on the inside of my wrist with a pen from my pocket and went inside. That night, after Marcus went to bed, I searched Glenfisk. His practice specialized in estate planning and asset transfers. He'd had 2 complaints filed with the New York State Bar Association in the last 5 years. One was from an elderly woman in Utica, who claimed her grandson had used Fisk to redirect her pension into a trust she never authorized. That complaint was dismissed for insufficient evidence. My hands were steady as I read. That's the thing people don't understand about the work I used to do. You don't shake when you find fraud. You go still. Everything gets very quiet inside, and you start building the architecture in your head. What connects to what? Where the money moves? Who signed what and when? Step 4. The discovery. Marcus drove Donna to her neurologist on a Thursday morning. November 9th. He'd be gone at least 2 hours. I went to the guest room where he kept a duffel bag during his overnight visits. I found it under the bed. Inside, a folder with a blue cover. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. And 29 years of training took over like a reflex. Page 1. A quit-claim deed for 74 Pemberton Drive, our home. Transferring full ownership from Donna Calloway to Marcus Calloway for a stated consideration of $1. Donna's signature line was blank. Mine wasn't included because the house was in Donna's name from before our marriage, a detail I'd mentioned once, casually, years ago, not realizing I was handing my son the blueprint. Page 2. A durable power of attorney granting Marcus complete financial authority over Donna's assets, effective immediately, with no physician certification required. The language was carefully drafted to bypass the cognitive assessment that New York law typically requires for patients with a dementia diagnosis. Someone had done their homework. Someone with a law degree, and no conscience. Page 3. Account transfer authorization for Donna's pension $4,200 a month, to be redirected into a new account at a credit union in DeWitt, New York. The account was already opened 31 days earlier. Marcus Calloway, sole signatory. Page 4. A revised beneficiary designation for Donna's life insurance policy. Original beneficiary, Warren Calloway. New beneficiary, Marcus Calloway. Policy value, $240,000. Pages 5 through 7. Supporting documents. A letter from Glenn Fisk affirming Marcus as designated family representative. An affidavit stating Donna had been consulted and consented. A medical summary that was 17 months out of date and made no reference to her diagnosis. 7 pages. 1 scheme. My son had built a machine designed to strip his own mother down to nothing. And he'd done it on paper so clean that most people would have signed without reading past the first paragraph. I wasn't most people. I photographed every page. Both sides. 31 photographs total. Then I placed the folder back exactly as I'd found it, angled the duffel bag zipper to the same position, and closed the guest room door behind me. I sat at the kitchen table. The house was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Outside, a cardinal landed on the feeder Donna had put up 6 years ago, the one with the copper roof she'd found at a flea market in Canandaigua. I watched it for a long time. I didn't feel rage. That's what people expect me to say. That I wanted to tear something apart. But that's not how it works. When you've spent decades reading financial documents, the way a coroner reads a body. You don't feel angry. You feel the architecture click into place. You see where every beam sits, and you know exactly which one to pull. Step 5 came that same evening. Marcus brought Donna home. Helped her up the porch steps. Settled her in her chair with her chamomile tea. Attentive. Gentle. He talked about her appointment. Said the doctor was optimistic, which I later confirmed was a lie. The neurologist had noted increased cognitive decline and recommended reassessing her living situation within 6 months. During dinner, Donna asked Marcus the same question 4 times. Are you staying tonight, sweetheart? The 4th time, Marcus set down his fork. He looked at me, not at her, at me. And he said, she's not going to get better, Dad. We both know that. We need to start making decisions before she can't do anything at all. Not plans, not preparations, decisions. Like she was a problem on a deadline. What kind of decisions? I asked. The responsible kind, he said. The kind you should have made a year ago. Donna smiled at him across the table. She hadn't followed a word of it. Step 6. The following Tuesday, I discovered that $47,300 had been transferred from Donna's personal savings account. An account I monitored, but wasn't a signatory on, into the DeWitt Credit Union account. The transfer was authorized with his signature. Donna's signature. Dated 4 days earlier. A day Marcus had taken her grocery shopping. Alone. He'd driven my wife to a bank branch, and had her sign a transfer form she couldn't comprehend. Then, he'd taken her to buy groceries like nothing had happened. I called the credit union. Identified myself as Donna's husband. The woman on the phone told me she couldn't discuss the account because my name wasn't on it. Her voice was young and careful, like she'd been trained to say exactly those words. I thanked her, and hung up. Step 7. The breaking point. November 12th. A Saturday. I told Marcus I was going to the pharmacy, and drove around the block to Winfield Street, one house over, where I could see our kitchen window, through the bare maple trees. I waited 19 minutes. Through the glass, I watched Marcus sit down across from Donna at our kitchen table. I watched him fan papers in front of her. I watched him place a pen in her hand. I walked back inside. That was the cold open. That was the moment you already saw. The grocery bag. The pen. The 7 pages. But now you understand what those pages meant. Now you understand why, when I picked up page 1 and read it in 11 seconds, my hands were perfectly still. That night, After Marcus retreated to the guest room, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a cup of coffee. I didn't drink. The screen cast blue light on the walls, and my fingers on the keys felt deliberate in a way they hadn't for 3 years. I opened a contact I hadn't used in 14 months, Patricia Lung, former colleague at First Federal. We'd worked side by side for 11 years before she left banking and went into elder law. She ran a practice in Pittsburgh, now 2 associates, a quiet office on Monroe Avenue, and a reputation as the person you called when someone was trying to steal your mother's house. I texted her at 11:40 p.m. "Pat, I need help. It's personal." She called back in 4 minutes. I laid it out. The quitclaim deed, the power of attorney, the pension redirect, the forged authorizations, the $47,300, the credit union account in DeWitt, Glenn Fisk, all of it. A long pause on the line. Then Patricia said, "Warren, you know what this is?" "Yeah," I said. "I know exactly what this is. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Under New York Penal Law, 155.40. Grand larceny in the second degree if the total exceeds $50,000. With the house equity, we're well past that threshold. I know. I'll make calls in the morning. Don't confront him. Don't change anything. Let him think it's working." For the next 17 days, I let Marcus come and go. I let him sit at my table, and eat my food, and call my wife Mom, and help her with her coat, while engineering the theft of everything she owned. During those 17 days, I did the following. I pulled account records, spanning 11 months, and documented 19 separate unauthorized transactions, totaling $83,400. I recorded 7 phone conversations between Marcus and Glenn Fisk using a voice-activated recorder. I kept in the kitchen drawer. New York is a one-party consent state, and Donna was the consenting party present. I obtained a forensic cognitive evaluation from Donna's neurologist, documenting that she lacked capacity to execute legal or financial instruments. I filed a formal report with Monroe County Adult Protective Services. And Patricia filed an emergency petition for a temporary restraining order and a judicial finding of financial exploitation. The night before it all came together, I sat at the kitchen table after Donna was asleep. Rain tapped against the window over the sink. I held the blue plate, the one with the chip on its rim from when she'd dropped it 2 years ago, and laughed and said it gave it character. I thought about Ruth, the measure of a man. I broke my promise to Donna. I'd told her I was done with that life, that I'd sealed it away. But Donna couldn't fight for herself anymore. And Marcus, my son, my blood was counting on exactly that. December 11th, a Wednesday, 8:15 a.m. The doorbell rang. Marcus was in the kitchen making scrambled eggs. He'd been staying over more frequently, probably wanted to be present for the final signatures. I opened the front door. Patricia Lung stood on the porch, in a gray wool coat, briefcase in one hand. Behind her, a Monroe County Sheriff's deputy, and a woman named Rhonda Kirby, from Adult Protective Services. Their breath made small clouds in the cold morning air. "Morning, Warren," Patricia said. "Morning, Pat. Come on in." Marcus turned from the stove. The spatula was still in his hand. He looked at Patricia, then the deputy, then at me. His face didn't shift all at once. It cracked slowly, like ice under weight. "Dad, what is this?" "Sit down, Marcus." He didn't sit. The deputy stepped forward. Rhonda Kirby placed a folder on the kitchen table, the same table where he'd tried to have Donna sign. Patricia laid it out, calmly, point by point. The way I would have. The 19 transactions. The $83,400. The forged authorization forms. The quitclaim deed. The power of attorney that would never survive judicial review, given the neurological evaluation. The 7 recorded phone calls. Glenn Fisk, whose license was now under emergency review by the state bar. Marcus went through it exactly the way they always go through it. This isn't what it looks like. I was trying to protect her assets. Then, you went through my things. You recorded private conversations. Patricia handled that one. Your mother was present during each call. One-party consent. Her presence is legally sufficient. Then, quieter. I was going to tell you, Dad. I was. We were going to sit down and go through all of it together. Then, you can't do this to me. I'm your son. Then, barely above a whisper, please. I owe people money. Dad, I'm in trouble, please. each attempt shorter than the last, each one weaker. I sat at the table, hands folded. The same posture I'd held across from attorneys and defendants in boardrooms and courtrooms for nearly 3 decades. "You're my son," I said. "That's why you thought this would work." The spatula dripped egg onto the floor. Nobody moved to clean it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to channel.